Today, I want to tell you 3 stories from my life. Nothing more. It's not a big deal, just 3 stories. The first story is about connecting the dots. I dropped out of Reed College after the first 6 months, but then stayed on and off for about 18 more months before actually quitting. Why did I drop out for good? It all started before I was born. My biological mother was a young single college graduate and decided to give me up for adoption. She strongly wanted me to be adopted by college graduates, so everything was set up for me to be adopted at birth by a lawyer and his wife. Except when I was born, they decided at the last minute that they really wanted a girl. Then my parents, who were on a waiting list, received a call in the middle of the night asking, "We have a newborn baby boy. Do you want him?" They replied, "Of course." My biological mother later learned that my mother hadn't graduated from college and that my father never graduated from high school. She refused to sign the final adoption papers. She changed her mind a few months later when my parents promised that I would one day go to college. That was the beginning of my life. And 17 years later, I entered college. However, I naively chose a school almost as expensive as Stanford, and all of my working-class parents' savings were spent on my college tuition. After 6 months, I didn't see the value in it. I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life, nor did I know how college was going to help me figure it out. And here I was, spending all the money my parents had saved their entire lives. So I decided to drop out of college and trust that everything would work out. It was pretty scary at the time, but looking back, it was one of the best decisions I've ever made. The moment I decided to drop out, I stopped taking the classes that didn't interest me and started taking the ones that seemed interesting. Not everything was rosy. I didn't have a place to sleep in college, so I slept on the floors of my friends' dorm rooms, returned Coke cans for 5 cents to buy food, and walked 7 miles across town to eat one good meal a week at the Hare Krishna temple. I loved it. Most of the things I encountered along the way by following my curiosity and intuition turned out to be invaluable later on. Let me give you an example. At the time, Reed College offered probably the best calligraphy course in the country. Every poster on campus and the labels on every drawer were beautifully hand-lettered. Because I had dropped out and didn't have to take the regular classes, I decided to take the calligraphy class and learn how to do it. I learned about serif and sans serif typefaces, about varying the amount of space between different letter combinations, about what goes into excellent calligraphy. It was beautiful, historical, artistically subtle, in a way that science can't capture, and I found it fascinating. None of it had even the slightest hope of practical application in my life. But 10 years later, when we were designing the first Macintosh computer, it all made sense. And we designed it all on the Mac. It was the first computer with beautiful typography. If I hadn't taken that specific course in college, the Mac would never have had multiple typefaces or proportionally spaced fonts. And since Windows was copied from the Mac, very likely no personal computer would have them. If I hadn't dropped out, I would never have taken that calligraphy course, and personal computers wouldn't have that beautiful typography. Of course, it was impossible to connect the dots looking forward when I was in college. However, it was very, very clear looking back 10 years later. I repeat, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking back. Therefore, you must trust that the dots will connect somehow in your future. You have to trust something, your intuition, destiny, life, karma, whatever. This perspective has never failed me, and it has made all the difference in my life. My second story is about love and loss. I was lucky. I knew what I wanted to do early in life. Woz and I started Apple in my parents' garage when I was 20. We worked hard, and in 10 years, Apple grew from just the 2 of us in a garage to a $2 billion company with over 4,000 employees. A year before my 30th birthday, we had launched our greatest creation, the Macintosh. And then I got fired. How can you get fired from a company you created? As Apple grew, we hired someone I thought was very talented to run the company with me. And for the first year or so, things went well. But then our expectations for the future began to diverge, and eventually we had a falling out. At that point, the board of directors sided with him. So at 30, I was out, and very publicly out. What had been the focus of my entire adult life was gone, and it was devastating. I really didn't know what to do for a couple of months. I felt like I had let down the previous generation of entrepreneurs, that I had let down the baton they'd passed to me. I met with David Packard and Bob Noyce and tried to apologize for having acted so badly. It was a public failure, and I even considered leaving Silicon Valley. But slowly, I began to understand something. I still liked what I was doing. What had happened with Apple didn't change that at all. I was rejected, but I was still in love. And so I decided to start over. I didn't understand it at the time, but it turned out that being fired from Apple was the best thing that could have happened to me. The weight of having been successful was replaced by the lightness of being a beginner again, less confident about everything. It allowed me to enter one of the most creative stages of my life. Over the next 5 years, I started a company called Next, another company called Pixar, and fell in love with a wonderful woman who became my wife. Pixar went on to create the first computer-animated film, Toy Story, and is currently the most successful animation studio in the world. In a surprising turn of events, Apple bought Next, I returned to Apple, and the technology we developed at Next is at the heart of Apple's current renaissance. Besides, Lorraine and I have formed a wonderful family. I'm pretty sure that none of this would have happened if I hadn't been fired from Apple. It was bittersweet medicine, but I guess the patient needed it. Sometimes life hits you with a brick on the head. Don't lose faith. I'm convinced the only thing that kept me going is that I loved what I did. You have to find what you love, and this is true for both your jobs and your loves. Your jobs are going to fill a large part of your lives, and the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work. And the only way to do great work is to love what you do. If you haven't found it yet, keep looking. Don't stop. And as for matters of the heart, you'll know when you find it. And like any important relationship, it gets better with age. So keep looking until you find it. Don't stop. My third story is about death. When I was 17, I read a quote that went something like this: "If you live every day of your life as if it were your last, someday you will truly be right." It made a big impression on me, and since then, for the past 33 years, I look in the mirror every morning and ask myself, if today were the last day of my life, would I do what I'm about to do today? And when the answer is no, for several days in a row, I know I must change something. Remembering that I will soon die is the most important tool I've ever encountered to help me make the big decisions in my life. Because almost everything, all external expectations, all pride, all fear of shame or failure, all these things fall away before death, leaving only what is important. Remembering that you are going to die is the best way I know to avoid the trap of thinking you have something to lose. You are already naked. There is no reason not to follow your heart. No one wants to die. Even those who want to go to heaven don't want to die to get there. And yet death is the destiny we all share. No one has ever escaped it, and that is as it should be. Because death is possibly life's greatest invention. It is life's agent of change. It erases the old to make way for the new. Now the new is you, but someday, not too far away, you will gradually become the old and be erased. Excuse me for being so dramatic, but it is the simple truth. Your time is limited, so don't waste it living other people's lives. Don't be trapped by dogmas, which is living with the results of other people's thoughts. Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voices. And most importantly, have the courage to follow your heart and